What's going on, guys? I'm Andrew.
I'm Jason.
And this is Movie Source.
Today we're doing our spoiler review for Captain America:
Civil War. Alright, so as we just mentioned, this is a spoiler review. If you have not seen this movie yet, click the watch later or see the film and then come back and watch it after you see it. But I gotta say, Jace, from seeing this movie, I've seen it twice now, I really love the different tones in this film. I mean, it stays on one tone for the most part. It's a good action adventure, but when I mean like what I love feeling different about it made me feel a different array of emotions during the movie. There was like some amazing action where I felt like a little kid seeing all these amazing characters on the screen together. Then there's other emotional moments where I had a lump in my throat because I care so deeply about these characters. So I thought the movie did a great job of when it needed to shift tones a little bit. It was perfect timing and perfect placement in the plot of the story. So I didn't think it made I didn't think it strayed away from the focus of the film and made a little bit annoying in terms of wow, they're shifting tones right now, and this is making me think like I'm watching a movie rather than a series of events going. So I thought they did a really good job of making you like go joygasm in great moments, and then obviously in serious moments you have that emotional pull and that lump in your throat. So I thought they did a really good job of balancing it in this film.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some fanboy moments, some amazing action in this movie, but the fact that this is the 13th movie
Yes.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they fleshed out these characters so much that in this movie you really can see the inner workings of their character and a lot of different relationships going on between all these characters. There's so many characters in this movie, and we really see the relationships between all of them, like Natasha and Captain America. There's a lot of moments where she's consoling him, even Natasha and Tony, and then we see Wanda and Vision. There's so many relationships that they've built upon that there's even so much more character development in this movie too. They did a really good job of just making you care about all these characters in this movie and not just be like, oh man, such great action, which there was, but it was really a movie that made you care about its characters.
It was really, I think the action was really interweaved into the emotional pull in the story, and that's why it just pulled you in even more. You cared so much more in the action scenes rather than, wow, great action, but I don't care about the characters or what's going on. No, you really do care in most of these action scenes about what's going on and the characters and also the sense of danger that they're going through. So you really do have that emotional pull, which I thought they did really good job. Also, too, I gotta say, the beginning of the film, I love when we see the new Avengers now that we saw the lineup at the end of Age of Ultron. I love how they're working together and just like the way Cap, when he says to Scarlet Witch, all right, just like we worked on, and then she does their version of the fastball special, which is like the X-Men where Colossus, throws Wolverine. So I thought that was really cool, them working together, and that fight action scene between them and Crossbones was awesome.
Well, even before that movie, I love how the opening scene of this movie is about Hydra. That really makes me think that this is a Captain America movie, which it really was. I mean, there's all the different Avengers in this movie, but this really was about Captain America. And the fact that they opened up with Hydra and the Winter Soldier just really got me back into that vibe. But yeah, like you were saying, that action scene was really cool. And it's really grounded action. Like really, like it's all natural effects, not really too much CGI. But that was really sick when Wanda throws up Cap to the building. Just so much teamwork between everybody. It's cool seeing everyone working together. And then the fight with Crossbones himself and Captain America was really cool.
Yeah, no, and also, too, we got a little preview of that hatred that Rumlow, Crossbones, that he had for Cap from the second movie. Obviously, Captain America beat the crap out of him in the elevator, and then also Sam Wilson got a fight in between him at the end, and then a building collapsed on him. So you can understand his revenge and motivation for coming after Team Cap, and I thought they did a really good job of obviously closing in that story because, what happens with Scarlet Witch when she throws him up the building and, all that collateral damage that happens. I thought they did, and I understand why they did that. I thought they did a really good job of making you understand, like, look, there's going to be casualties in here. It's not, let's kick ass and go home at the end of the day. There's consequences to some of these actions. Obviously, if they don't intervene, there's going to be way more deaths, but still, I like how they show it's not all fun and games. There's serious consequences to their actions.
I think that's why Marvel has succeeded so much, is that they make all these heroes exist in the world we're living in today. They make it seem so real and like we're actually in this world, not some random superhero world, you know what I mean? Like you said, there are casualties, there are consequences to what goes on. They are saving people, but they're also killing a lot of people in the process too, and that's one of the main themes of this movie.
Yeah, definitely. I love the scene where we get young Robert Downey Jr. Really reminded me a lot of two Marvel films. One, Captain America: The First Avenger. When we see Cap, as the skinny, smaller, shorter Steve Rogers, remind me a lot of that. Also, Michael Douglas in Ant-Man, when they showed him in 1989 and they were able to really CGI and composite his face to make him look so much younger. I thought they did a really good job, because watching Robert Downey Jr. really looked like he was back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, they made it look so realistic, and you see Tony talking to his parents, and you find out, that's not really what happened. That's what he wished had happened. He's giving this presentation at MIT. He's trying to cope with his conscience a little bit, and he basically tells everyone at MIT that he's going to be funding all their projects and to go build something, go make the world a better place. But in reality, he's really just coping for all his demons and all the things he's going through.
I also like, too, how we learned that scene when his mom is telling him you love him. You're never going to get a chance. That clearly indicates they had a bad conversation. And Tony still feels regret about it and wishes he could have said he loved his dad. So I liked in that moment how they were. And again, we also in the other Marvel films, we learned that Tony he didn't feel like he lived up to what his dad wanted.
And he never really had the greatest relationship with his dad either. So
yeah, exactly. So I like how they hinted at that a lot more when his mom said to him, "You're never going to get a chance. Tell him you love him." And then again, that's clearly, you can see there's regret in Tony's character, because he feels bad about not getting that chance to say he loved his dad before what happened in the events of the film. So I like how they showed that relationship expanding even a little more. Then we get that scene with later near the elevator, right when Tony walks up. You understand why Tony, because in the first few movies and also the first few films of Tony Stark, he does not want to do anything with the government.
Well,
he's anti-government all the way. And then after the events of Age of Ultron, and now this woman, and by the way, this is a little bit of an Easter egg. The woman who sees him in the near the elevator when he's at MIT, that's Miriam Sharp in the comic books. That's the woman in Civil War. She told Tony Stark about the Stanford incident, and she tells Tony, like, my son died in this, and you're responsible. And you understand why in this, Tony, like, you can see the love, because he's the one who created Ultron. It's not, hey, I tried to save the day and I didn't save your son. He's the one who created Ultron, so you can understand his guilt in the moment and why he would shift. And that's what I thought this movie and the Russo brothers did such a phenomenal job with Tony Stark. The evolution of the character. Look how he was when he got into that cave in the beginning of Iron Man 1. He wanted nothing.
He didn't care about anything. Just himself.
Exactly, and he didn't want anything to do with the government as well. And look at the shift of the character. I just thought they've done such a great job of the evolution of Tony Stark in all these films. Really good job, in my opinion.
They really have, and it's cool, too, because you see him down so much, yet throughout this movie, he's still cracking a lot of jokes, which is classic Tony Stark. But yeah, you really see how beaten down and how weathered Tony's become, especially in this movie. Most of the time, he just looks so beaten down.
I would also remind that woman, and again, it is Tony's fault for creating Ultron. I'm not defending that. I would just say, if the Avengers don't intervene there, your son dies and everyone else, and the rest of the world.
I was thinking that too.
But I understand where tell that to a woman who's lost her son, and I get where she's coming from. Also, one thing too, I could be wrong. That actress playing Mary, it just says Miriam in the cast, doesn't say Miriam Sharp. Her name is Alfie Woodford, I believe her name is. She's also going to be on the Netflix show Luke Cage, which is also connected with the MCU, and she's not playing Miriam like she is in this. I know it's not a big deal and it doesn't matter, but I thought that was and again, I love the actress, very good actress. It's weird that she's going to be playing two different characters in the same MCU. That's just, for me, it's weird. I know no one else is going to care about that, but
yeah, you'd think Marvel is usually pretty good about that. Is where if they plant someone in a movie, they're going to be that character again.
Yeah, if she's playing Miriam in Luke Cage, I get that, but she's not playing Miriam. She's playing a totally different character, which is fine. The actress is very good. I just find it weird that in the MCU, you're playing two different characters at the same time, so I don't know, just weird.
So as we said before, when Wanda was basically saving Cap from Crossbone's explosion, she throws him up into the air, and she ends up crashing him into a building. A lot of people died, so
it happened so fast.
Yeah, we see her back at the compound, and she's just looking so sad and so hurt, and she's questioning herself, and it's kind of funny. She's talking, I think, to Cap, and Cap's like, oh no, it's my fault. He mentioned Bucky, and I just became a 16-year-old boy again. But then we see Vision just come through the wall, which is cool, because they never really said that in Age of Ultron, that he can actually adjust his body mass to where he can just
phase through.
Yeah, he can just go through walls and stuff. But yeah, he comes through the wall, and everyone looks at him, and he's like, what?
But the door was open.
I thought that was some comedic relief there. I enjoyed that. But he's like, oh, I guess I'll use the door. But he tells him that Tony has showed up to the compound with Senator Ross. And then we see everyone meet up in the meeting room, and Ross is talking about how Basically, it's talking about all the events from previous movies like New York and Sokovia, Washington D.C., and then now Lagos, which just happened. So he's basically saying that, we owe you a debt. We can't repay you. You fought for us. And while some people call you heroes, others might call you vigilantes. So he's like, well, we might have come to a compromise. And he presents them with the Sokovia Accords, which is basically them saying they're under control of the government.
Yeah, and again, what I thought this scene did a good job, it made you understand why Tony is doing what he's doing, from that woman accusing him of letting her son die, to now you understand Cap's side, why he's like, no, I'm not, no more government, I'm not trusting any more government agencies. As we saw in The Winter Soldier, he was being, Hydra had taken over S.H.I.E.L.D. He thinks that the safest hands are still their own. What if something's happening and they don't send them to a catastrophic event? What if they send them to an event that they don't feel is necessary for the Avengers to intervene? So you completely understand and buy Cap's side. And again, on Tony's side, from the guilt that this woman has just dropped, and also the guilt of, I almost destroyed the world with Ultron, you understand why Tony and I, that's why I thought this movie did such a good job. It's kept on pulling you.
Yep,
God,
both
I
sides.
understand why this side is, I understand Tony's side, I understand Cap's side, I'm still Team Cap, but I really understand Tony right here. Like, it makes total sense. So,
and he also mentions later on in the movie that he and Pepper are on a break, and then he thought, oh, maybe signing these accords will be like a middle ground. So there's another reason even that he wanted to sign these accords too.
So as you just mentioned, him and Pepper have broken up, which is understandable, because after Iron Man 3, he's destroying all the suits, she said she thought that was it. Then Avengers Age of Ultron happened, which she understood why, and now this again is happening. So it's like, and I love what Tony Stark says, in her defense, I'm a handful. But my dad was a handful, and him and mom made it work. So yeah. I did like that line, though, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, just again, we can see that tone. Again, what I love, this movie, it really feels like the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Universe. What I mean by that, we're going into the dark, we're putting these characters into the darkest places they've ever been. And it's just incredible to see, like, them fighting each other. They don't want to fight each other, but it's like it's ripping them apart. And again, in these superhero films, what we're normally accustomed to seeing, them teaming up, or in a solo film, going after the big bad guy, and that's it. It's not as simple and black and white as that in this film. They're fighting each other, and it's tearing them apart, and it pulls you in emotionally, and that's why I love this movie so much.
So yeah, while they're all talking about the Accords and whether or not to sign it, Cap gets a phone call, he steps out, and you see him looking...
it was a text message, right?
Maybe, yeah, you see him looking all sad, and then we see, it says London, and it's Peggy Carter's funeral. So this is the last person, basically, other than Bucky, that he's known since his time. So and obviously he loved her. So
of course,
he's a pallbearer at her funeral, and you can see how sad he is, how much he's crying and stuff. But yeah, he gets to the funeral, and he's there with Sam Wilson, and they see that Sharon Carter, his old next door neighbor at his apartment, shows up. And she starts, giving a speech.
Right, no, and again, we get that reveal. Now, if you were a comic book fan like myself or Jason, we knew she was Sharon Carter in Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Obviously, this film, as we just mentioned, confirmed that at the funeral. And she also said in the speech she gave, the eulogy for her aunt, Peggy Carter, she said that she didn't want anyone to know, so that's why it wasn't confirmed in Winter Soldier, but most of us did know. She gave a really great speech, and in that speech, it's actually an Easter egg for the comic books, Captain America's, or rather for Civil War. What is said in there, a couple words that are said in there is, when the world tells you to move, you have to plant yourself like a tree and tell it, no, you move, or I'm not going to move, something like that. That's exactly what Captain America said to Spiderman in the comic book Civil War, so I thought a really cool nod and Easter egg, and I thought that speech fit the moment. And again, this movie is not exactly taking on everything from the comic of Civil War, because that, you got a Superhero Registration Act, this you have the Sokovia Accords. There's a lot of
they're
things
making it fit to the mark.
Yeah,
the
exactly. There's
universe.
only a couple things that they pulled away from that, including the name, a couple of imagery, and a few other plot points. But it's not the whole film. It's just like the comic, which I like. I like them taking
its own thing.
Exactly. I like them taking a few things rather than everything has to be just like the comics. So I thought they did a great job of interweaving some of the more important stuff and giving some cool Easter eggs and nods, and also some of the cool visual imagery we got from the comic.
Yeah, and also those words that she said really hits home for Cap, because he's trying to make this decision whether or not to sign these accords. And what she says, don't budge or whatever. Like, he's like, no, I'm keeping my stance. I'm not going to sign these accords. Also, in Captain America: Winter Soldier, when we first see Sharon the first time, she says she's talking on the phone. And she hangs up. She's like, "Oh, it's my aunt. She never stops talking. Whatever. She's talking about Aunt Peggy. So I thought that was kind of funny too.
I think that's why. I mean, I had not picked up on that until recently, but even before that, I still always thought she was Sharon Carter. But once you pointed that out to me like a few weeks ago, I was like, that's just beyond confirmation that it's Peggy Carter. So that was a really cool.
Yeah, she never says Aunt Peggy, but she
Yeah,
says, "Oh, it's my aunt."
aunt.
So yeah, after the funeral is over, the place is emptied out, and Cap is just kind of sitting there. And Natasha walks up. He didn't know she was there, but he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And she just says, "I didn't want you to be alone." And he shares some story, but basically it just shows how much Natasha and him have kind of bonded a little bit, especially from the events of Winter Soldier. But they have a nice moment where they hug, and I just thought it's a great character building moment. Even though Natasha ends up being up on Tony's side of it, she's still there for her friend, and she cares about him.
No, I completely agree. Just really quick, just after, like you said, after the events of Winter Soldier, I would have been asking questions like, why isn't she there to support her friend? So again, McFeely and Marcus, the writers, and the Russo brothers, great job of that. Just that little, it was only like 45 seconds long to a minute long, and just a great, like you said, character building moment and expanding of their friendship. And it's like, I'm not here for the Sokovia Accords. I'm not here to get you a sign. I know you can't be alone right now. So I really love their relationship. I love the relationship between him and Sam. Just again, Marvel does such a good job with their characters and the relationships. Like and I'm not saying I'm not saying on the other comic films we don't. Of course, we care about a lot of those characters too, but it's just they've hit you in a different way, I feel like, Marvel, and I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I love these characters so much. Not that we don't love the other comic characters in film, of course not, but they just really do a great job of building those relationships and expanding them, evolutionizing these characters, expanding them. They don't just leave, oh, hey, we're just going to leave that relationship alone from the previous movie and forget about it. No, they remember stuff, and then they keep and they carry it over, and they just do such a good job.
And I think that's actually my favorite part of this whole movie. Like, the action's amazing, obviously, and, so many cool characters, but the fact that we see these characters interacting with each other and actually having meaningful conversations and meaningful moments that build up and, like, don't even resolute sometimes, but it's just great to see, like, all these characters have been together for so long, and it shows,
No, definitely, I agree. Now, one big issue Marvel has been accused of is they don't have the greatest villains. I've liked most of their villains. There's a few that I didn't care for, Malekith and Thor: The Dark World. But in general, I've liked most of their villains, especially the Netflix villains too. I know we're focusing on film here, but I gotta say, I know a few people have had a problem with Baron Zemo. Why? I have no idea. This character, what I love about this character, he's the personification of failure of the Avengers. The collateral damage failure of the Avengers is Baron Zemo, this character. He has lost and you understand right away his motivation. He's lost his family in Sokovia. You right then and there, you feel sorry for this character, and you understand where he's coming from. And I thought they just did such a good job of making you understand, hey, he's part of the Sokovia Death Squad and also intelligence. He's not just some random guy trying to go after the Avengers. Also, too, I love the line at the end of the film where he's talking with Black Panther in the snow. He's like, I knew I couldn't kill all the Avengers. More powerful men than me have tried, but if I could get them to kill each other, it's brilliant. Yeah, no. It's brilliant.
He actually has a lot of really good lines in this movie. There's another line, I think, earlier on in the movie where he's like, I have experience and I have patience. A man can do anything if he has those. He's just really, really bright, and he knows what he's doing, and he's very motivated to do so. And like you said, that's a dangerous person right there.
I completely agree. He's written really well. He's a very high IQ character. And for people going, we're going to get into it near the end, but for people going, how did he get Iron Man in the end? It's so convenient that he got Iron Man in the room with Bucky and Cap at the end. No, it wasn't convenient at all. It made total sense. If you remember in the film, yeah, he had a plan. He called up the bed or the hotel he was staying at, and he told them to bring the bacon and the black coffee like they had done before. And the woman came there, in I think it's Germany, and she walks in the room. She sees the dead psychiatrist that he was impersonating when he went to see Bucky for the first time in the Avengers headquarters. There we see the dead psychiatrist in the bathtub, who, by the way, is one of the directors of the film, Joe Russo, and he was also a doctor in Winter Soldier with Nick Fury with the collapse lung. So I thought that was cool, was putting the director in there. But we see there, he knew that she was going to call the authorities, and he's been obsessed and studying the Avengers for over a year since the Sokovia incident. So he knew that Tony Stark, after hearing the authorities say there's a dead psychiatrist, also too we hear some dialogue in that scene that proves Bucky's innocence. It shows that Bucky's facial recognition was being used with the doctor. So right there, he knew Tony Stark, with his high intelligence, would figure out, okay, this doctor was impersonated that came into our base, and also he was impersonating Bucky's facial recognition. I know that this is the bad guy now, and I know where to track him. It made total sense, so I don't know why people were confused about that.
Yeah, and I've also heard some people say, "Oh, he didn't really do anything like that much physically," and he didn't really do anything physically in the movie. But what he did was create the conflict between all the Avengers, basically pitting them against each other. So he executed his plan probably better than most of the other Marvel villains.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Give me some hate in the comments. He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite MCU villains. I love villains with high IQ, and again, I didn't need to see him beating down the Avengers. I didn't need to see him putting on the purple mask. Hopefully in a later film that'll happen. But in general, I loved his plan. I loved his motivation. It was understandable. I didn't agree with him, but I understood where he was coming from. He felt his family was collateral damage, and all the Avengers did after it happened, they just went home. And while he had to pick up and listen to them scream for 2 days, you understand where this character is coming from. It was a very well-written villain, and I just don't understand people's gripe with this villain in any way.
And I love Daniel Brühl's performance of him, too.
Absolutely.
He did a really good job conveying what he needed to convey, and like I said, he delivered all his lines really well and came off as really smart.
When the film started and it said December 1991, I remember Jason turned to my left, or rather his left, and he said to me, "You were right." And what he says is, "You were right," we have a trailer review here for Captain America: Civil War, and in that trailer review, I said that it's my prediction after watching The Winter Soldier so many times. You see a bunch of clippings of, and also Arnim Zola said accidents will happen for Natasha saying that Shield would have stopped Hydra. We see a picture of Nick Fury. We see a picture of Howard Stark. So they clearly were showing you and putting the seeds in there that Winter Soldier had killed Howard Stark, and obviously we saw in this film that it came true. I thought they did a really good job of the nonlinear storytelling of kind of like slowly building it up, even though I knew right away, like you said, right when it said December 1991, I knew who was in the car immediately.
Yep.
And then when they showed Tony Stark being young again, that double confirmed it.
Well, yeah, when he was showing him this relationship with his parents. Yeah.
But again, seeing the slow build-up, seeing not who was in the car, just Winter Soldier getting the super soldier serum in the trunk, I thought they did a really good job building up the suspense of not knowing who was in that car for the general going audience. So really good job there, I thought.
Gotta say, the action in this movie was just unbelievable. I mean, it's great seeing all these heroes fight each other, but the hand-to-hand combat itself was just so well done. I knew that since it was the same guys who did Winter Soldier, that movie, the action in that movie was just so great too. I knew this would be, but it was even better than I thought. There's like this one scene where Black Panther is fighting Captain America, and he just throws 3 kicks at him in a row.
Oh, right, yeah.
Man, that was so awesome. This movie was just so much fun just seeing all this great action.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's some amazing action sequences. First, as we mentioned a little earlier in the review, we got the Crossbones versus the Avengers team. I feel like that scene gets glossed over because of the other amazing action sequences in the film. That scene alone was incredible. Just watching Cap take off the masks of the SWAT guys and beating them down and making them, suck in the gas. Really cool, great action scene there. Then we got the scene of Bucky being hunted down by, I think it was the Romanian, I could be wrong, Romanian police? I don't know, I think they were in Romania. Anyway, that sequence of them going down the stair, it really reminded me so much of Daredevil when it's all it's like The Raid also, too. It's where they're on kind of like one shot just going down and down and down the stairs. So sick, and then Bucky is jumping from the railing to the railing, and then Cap is catching guys. Like, come on, man!
Yeah,
I thought it was a great action sequence, and then obviously we get to see Bucky and Black Panther, T'Challa. We get to see them fighting each other. That was so badass. And then when they're running, and then the chase scene where Black Panther is running after Bucky, and the way the camera is moving with the characters, really cool. Then we get another reference to that crappy 1990 Captain America movie of Cap stealing another car. And the Russo likes it when Cap steals cars. So Cap jumps on an Audi, doesn't steal, but I guess he commandeers it, if you will, stealing. He jumps on the Audi.
Borrowing.
Yeah, there you go. He jumps on the Audi, takes it from one of the cops who were coming after Bucky, and then Black Panther jumps. Just an incredible action sequence again. Another impressive one. Then when Bucky gets brainwashed by Zemo. By the way, and one just really quick, there's an Easter egg whenever someone is brainwashing Bucky in the Russian words. One of them says Homecoming. The title of the next year's Spider-Man film is called Spider-Man Homecoming. Clearly a nod, an Easter egg right there. But getting back to this, when we saw Bucky getting brainwashed, that was crazy. Like seeing him, great acting by Sebastian
Stan.
Stan.
Again. Yeah,
and then him breaking out, he's like, I don't want. Yeah, no, I thought it was great job by Sebastian Stan. But when he's breaking out, you see that evil Winter Soldier back again. And then he's fighting first he's fighting Tony Stark with that cool little hand. I like when Natasha says, "Do you have your suit?" Yeah, it's a three-button suit. Yeah, and he's like, "I'm a peace guy," or something like that. It was just so funny. But then it's him, Sharon Carter, and Natasha. They're all fighting, and then we get T'Challa out of costume. He was holding his own. It wasn't like he was being pushed. He was beating He kicked Winter Soldier off the ledge a little bit there too. I love seeing him fight without the costume. You could see, damn, T'Challa's got skills. It's not just the costume. Yeah, the costume gives him protection, but he's got mad skills, and he just beat Winter Soldier off the ledge with no gear on. It was so impressive. The hand-to-hand combat, it's so impressive. It's some of the best I've ever seen in cinema.
And then, of course, there's the ultimate airport scene where you see the actual team squaring off against each other. This is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie just because how much fun it is and seeing all the characters against each other. But the action in this movie was this scene was very, very well choreographed. And you really got to see each character have their moment against another character. And there was some great matchups, too. Like we see, Cap and Tony, obviously. But then we also see Hawkeye and Black Panther. And we see Natasha and Clint also, and they're bantering back and forth. He's like, we're so friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.
Yeah, and Spider-Man finally comes into the fray in this part. We'll talk about Spider-Man, but he was really awesome in this scene. And then probably my favorite was Ant-Man / Giant Man.
Ant-Man.
Exactly. When they brought him out, I was so happy. They're like, we need a diversion, something big. And I see Scott running. He's like, oh, I might have something. And I was like thinking in the back of my mind, this could be it. And that was it. I was so happy.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, I saw the Funko Pops about 8 or 9 months ago that showed Giant Man. I didn't know if they would actually put him in the film, so I wasn't confirmed for me, but I did see the Funko Pops that said Giant Man, so I guess that didn't ruin it for me. It kind of confirmed it a little early on, but just seeing it unfold and him becoming Ant-Man, it was so cinematically epic. Really quick, we'll get into Spider-Man in a sec, but that little Empire Strikes Back reference of, you guys ever see Empire Strikes Back? That
really old movie, and then Brody's like, how old is this kid?
On the snowy planet? Hey, but this kid's got a plan. I like where he's going with this. And then right when he said, anyone see Empire Strikes Back, I knew immediately that it was, like the tow cables. As we clearly know, and obviously Disney owns Marvel, and Disney also owns Star Wars. The Russo brothers are clearly big, and so is Kevin Feige, the producer of this. They're big fans, clearly, of Star Wars from, the hand stuff, as we mentioned in some of our other reviews. In Phase 2, they always cut someone's hand off, like Luke Skywalker. They're making an Empire Strikes Back reference, and also we see later Bucky loses his arm.
Yeah.
So, lots of Star Wars parallels in this. So I thought, what I loved about the airport scene, though, so much, it's not only how amazing and grand and epic it was, the dramatic turns it took in the scene. Like, one moment, you're feeling like a little kid, like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. Another minute, you're like, oh my god, War Machine's going to, oh my god, like, I got a lump in my throat. It was like, you were so emotionally pulled in while enjoying the action. It was such a well-choreographed scene. I've seen many action scenes in my 28 years of life. Give me I don't know, this could be the greatest action scene I've ever, just one action scene I'm talking about on film. It could be the greatest action scene I've ever seen in the history of cinema in my life. I've never seen an action scene where I'm feeling so much different emotion, so much different weight. Like, I feel like a little kid one second, then I got the lump in my throat another second, and the action is amazing the entire time, and I'm so emotionally invested. I've never felt this way while watching an action sequence.
And it's not even just the action. It's actually, what I love too about the scene is the actual dialogue between the characters. Like, you see when Spider-Man is fighting Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I love that fight.
And Spider-Man's talking all the
whoa, dude, shit. You got a metal arm?
Yeah, and I also loved how they made Spider-Man actually, like he is in the comics, be very witty and talk a lot Falcon, but then
he has a Queen's accent. Awesome.
And you also see, he basically takes down Falcon and Winter Soldier, but then you got Falcon's Red Wing comes and shoots him, and then Winter Soldier's like, you couldn't have done that earlier, and Falcon's like, I hate you. And then also the banter between Clint and Tony's making a joke. It's like, oh, why aren't you out shooting golf? He's like, I played 18, I shot 18, I just can't seem to miss. And then he shoots at Tony, and Tony shoots away all his arrows, like, I guess it was the first time in everything, and Clint's like, made you look, and then all the cars spill down on him.
Yeah, no.
Really? And then even Scott Lang, and all his, like, he's like, I believe this is yours, Captain America, when he gets the shield back from Spider-Man. I loved all of that.
Yeah, no, and also, too, when Ant-Man was on Hawkeye's arrow, right out of the comic books, that visual imagery, that was such a cool shot. And then when he goes inside Iron Man, I am your conscience. We haven't talked in a while. It's so great. And So funny,
So
so
good.
great. Oh yeah, no, and then I love later in the prison too, and he's like, Pimmel always told me I shouldn't trust the Stark. Who are you? Come on,
Yeah.
man. Paul Rudd, we mentioned in our trailer review, he was going to obviously be the comedic humor in the film, and he delivered. He was so funny. Oh my God, Captain America! I know you too. You're great. He's so funny, and also too the comedic timing in this film, the humor. It's perfect timing. It's perfect placement. I had talked about in Iron Man 3, all the comedy in that film and humor, I laughed at. I felt a lot of times it was out of place. Like when one guy was trying to kill Robert, and he's like, with Tony Stark, he's like, I'm so sorry, they're so weird here. Funny stuff, but it's out of place. In this movie, there's nothing is out of place. You mentioned the Winter Soldier and Falcon saying, I hate you, and you could have done that 5 minutes earlier. Great. How about earlier when they're in a bug, Sharon Carter and Cap finally kiss. First, right before they kiss, Bucky is sitting behind Cap in a Volkswagen Bug. I love their car, getaway car, and he says to Bucky, Bucky says to Falcon, "Can you move your seat up?" No, and then he scoots over, and then after Cap and Sharon Carter have kissed, they give him that look like, yeah.
So they're his two best friends. I love that moment.
No dialogue. It's great.
Just so funny.
Good character moments. Good, like, again, without dialogue, you're just making us more invested in these characters. So, and obviously they've had the advantage. They've had 13 films. We don't need to know. We know about a lot about these characters, but great job just, again, infusing those character moments and also in the action sequences, too. So many funny moments. And I think my favorite part of the fight, I mean, there were so many amazing parts of that airport scene. Spider-Man versus Captain America. I love when they're talking to each other and he's like, "You got heart, kid." And he goes, "Where are you from?" "Queens." "Brooklyn." Perfect.
And the fight itself was actually pretty cool too. Spider-Man was holding his own for the most part. But
dude, when he caught Winter Soldier's thing and then he just pushed him aside and then he threw the thing back and went, no, he is powerful. Also too, we gotta also mention really quick the scene of Robert Downey Jr. when he goes to meet Peter Parker. Right when it said Queens, New York, our crowd erupted.
Yep.
Didn't even need to see. Also, too, I love the Easter egg of seeing Peter Parker. He's got the pizza shirt on. If you remember in the second Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi film, Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker works as a pizza delivery boy, so I thought that was a cool little Easter egg. I love right away how they make fun of Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. As Aunt May. She's obviously a lot younger, and some people complained about. I didn't personally care about the age because she's 51 in real life. I could see her as an aunt, but I know everyone's got the old Aunt May look in their head, so I got that. But I love how Tony Stark right away said, "You're very attractive young aunt." So they're making
unusually attractive because, like you said, usually she's old. But, they really built up the relationship between Tony and Peter really, really well. Like, it's pretty funny scene when Peter's trying to hide the fact that he's Spider-Man. Tony obviously knows, but then he shows him the footage that he's seen. He's like, "You need a major upgrade, like a 100-point inspection or something like that." He's like, "I need you to come to Germany." And Peter's like, "I can't drop out of school."
Yeah.
But he ends up, he obviously goes to the fight, and during the fight, you can see how concerned Tony is for Peter. He does not want him getting hurt.
Oh, and
he's like, "What should I do, Mr. Stark?" He's like we talked about, stay out of the way, or keep your distance and like web people up.
What I loved that they did with this Spider-Man, he felt like a kid.
Yeah,
like the way. Hey, I don't know if you've ever been in a fight, but he usually doesn't have this much talking. Like
after he'd owned them already.
Again, it felt like Spider-Man to me. Spider-Man is a young. I mean, obviously in different comics and variations, he gets older, and of course, and in the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, and the Andrew Garfield, he's already been in college in those films. So they look much older than a high school kid. Those two actors. So I loved Tom Holland's portrayal. I'm really invested in this character, and I know we only got a little screen time, and it's such a small sample. I'm not going to say, yes, he's my favorite, but it's so far, I don't know, it's been my favorite portrayal of Spider-Man, and even though it's been such a small sample size, it was incredible the little time we did get of them.
I totally agree. I thought one of the coolest parts, too, of the airport scene is they're fighting, and then all of a sudden you see Vision draw a literal line across the ground, and Cap's team is on one side, and Tony's team is on the other side, and you see that, like, you see the lineup shot. I love that. Pretty iconic. Just seeing each team, and then I forget who it was that asked, but they're like, "Cap, what should we do?" And he's like, "We have to fight." And they cross the line, and they start running at each other, and then Iron Man and War Machine rise up, and then you see also like Spider-Man rise up. It's such a cool scene.
No, definitely. Again, you can feel that emotional weight, like you. Yes, we want to see that cool epic action scene, but we don't want to see these guys hurting and fighting each other. So, but again, it made sense in the plot and the story. the dramatic turns in the scene. It's just one of the greatest action sequences I've ever seen. One thing I was a little worried about while watching the film after following that action sequence, how are they going to top that? How are you going to top this scene with the rest of the film? And action-wise, when we get to in Moscow later, when Tony Stark after discovering the body that was found in Germany from Baron Zemo's apartment, or from the hotel he was staying in, he knew that Tony would track them to Moscow and find Bucky and Captain America. So what I loved about this scene too, we got that little quick humor in there where he's like, "Hey, Manchurian Candidate, this is a truce." I thought that was really, really funny. But again, I love this character of Zemo, how he knew that they would come together and get them here. And what does he do right away? I thought he was going to use those 6 super soldiers after them. No, he kills them, and it makes sense. He says, "You think I wanted more of you?
Yeah.
Look what you guys did to my family." No. And it made sense what he does. Like, that is brilliant. And then also, too, right, I knew he was going to because whenever he said to when he said to Bucky, December 16th, 1991, mission report, I knew immediately that he was trying to pull a file from Winter Soldier's assassination of Howard and Maria Stark. So right when we got into that scene, I'm like, and we'd seen in the trailer too them fighting. Even if I had not seen that, I knew what was coming. Just the tension and that feel of, it's coming. And it's not, and for people saying, "Wow, Tony reacted a little weird there. He should have known, he called him a Manchurian Candidate. He should have known he's being brainwashed." You watch someone murder your parents right in front of you, and that being the guy who did it right there, "Hey, it's okay. I knew you were brainwashed. All good. Get out of here."
Yeah.
Blind rage took over for Tony in that moment, and you understood it wasn't just the blind rage that took over. It wasn't just that the Winter Soldier had killed his parents. He turns to Cap and said, "Did you know?" No. He's like, "Don't tell me that shit. Did you know?" Yes. That's his friend. Someone he's fought with in the Avengers together with, someone he's had blood and sweat with, someone he considers, even though he resents him because his dad loved Cap way more than he loved him, but he still has an ultimate respect for Cap. That betrayal of Cap not telling him, he lost it there, and I am hunting to kill this man. Again, for people complaining that Tony was ridiculous and out of his mind there, yeah, he was. That's the point. Think about it. You're not going to be rational in that moment when you're watching someone destroy and murder your parents right in front of you. And also, we saw too, Tony had so much regret, he never got to tell his dad he loved him.
Cap's fighting Iron Man 101, and Friday, Tony's computer system tells him, "We can't fight him hand to hand."
You can't beat him hand to hand.
He's like, analyze his fight pattern.
By the way, that is right from the comics. Analyze his pattern that was happening right in Civil War. And also, too, we got that amazing visual imagery of Cap shooting his energy beams into the shield right from the cover of the comics. Continue.
Well, yeah, when they're going slow motion, and while all this is happening, we see Zemo outside.
Great scene.
And also, I forgot to mention, too, when Zemo's explaining his whole plan to them, Black Panther's in the background, and he hears it, and you see his face be like, oh, he knows that. He tells him, I almost hunted down the wrong man.
He's learned that vengeance has consumed the Avengers, and he knows that Zemo put this plan together, and now he almost killed the wrong man over something he didn't do, and now he knows that Bucky was being brainwashed. He understands vengeance has consumed the Avengers, and he's not letting it consume him anymore. What I love about T'Challa in the scene where he doesn't let Zemo die, it's 2 reasons to me he didn't let him die. One, because he's changed his philosophy. He's not going to let vengeance consume him, even though he does have the man who just murdered his father. And 2, he's not letting Zemo get off that easy.
Exactly, the easy way out.
Yeah, no, you're going to
the living aren't done with you.
Yeah, you're going to pay for your crimes. I love that character. Again, this isn't Black Panther's film. There's so much going on, but it felt like it was his own film just from that story point of view. Like, wow, we got his origin out of the way, even though he's been this character, I'm assuming, for a while because he was kicking ass right away in the suit. But just in terms of, we don't need to go into a crazy introduction now when we get to his solo film. We know so much about this character just in the screen time we got with him in this film. And they did, I don't know, he might be one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite now. And Chadwick Boseman's performance,
really good.
Phenomenal. I loved it.
Yeah, Black Panther's always been one of my favorite Avengers, even though he hasn't been in this movie
Earth's
series.
Mightiest Heroes.
But I loved him from Earth's Mightiest Heroes and the comics. And I was really, interested and a little worried to see how they were going to integrate him in, but I thought they did his origin story pretty well. His dad died. His dad was the king of Wakanda. He dies in the explosion that Zemo set off that we now know. So then T'Challa becomes the king of Wakanda and the Black Panther. I'm assuming he's been the Black Panther in this universe already.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's able to kick ass even without the suit, so I'm assuming he's been that way for a while.
Yeah, I really liked his character in this movie, and he had one of the sickest intros too, like when Bucky jumps off the building onto the roof.
Oh, yeah.
You see Bucky stand up, and all of a sudden you see the shadow of Black Panther coming at him, and he swipes at Winter Soldier, and then it shows his face and stuff. But I thought his introduction was really cool.
Yeah, and again, we talked a little earlier about how much we love Zemo, but again, the lines that really hit me so hard in this scene when he's saying to T'Challa, he's saying, "I knew I couldn't kill the Avengers. More powerful men than me have tried and failed. But if I could get them to kill each other." It's such a smart plan. There's no way you're physically going to beat these guys. Let's make them beat each other and fight each other and divide the group apart. And then he said, and I love at the end when he says to Bilbo Baggins, to Martin Freeman's character. By the way, his American accent was spot on. I know he's got he's from England, but I was really sold on his American accent. I thought he did a great job. But the line he says to Martin Freeman's character, when he says, "And to see it fail so spectacularly," he's like, did it? He's right. He kind of won in the end. So I just, again, thought it was a great moment for that character, and I love, too, the character arc of Black Panther.
Yeah, and Zemo says that great line. He says, "An empire that topples from its enemies can rebuild, but one that crumbles from within is dead forever." And I thought that was just a perfect personification of his plan. Like he said, he couldn't beat them himself, so he made them do it to each other.
I agree. Again, I love high IQ villains that you understand their motivation and they actually have a very interesting plan that makes sense with the plot. And again, I just really identified with this character. I understood where he was coming from and I felt tragically bad for him after what had happened. Again, it's not the Avengers' faults. They did everything they could, but you understand where he's coming from. Again, it felt a lot like that woman, Miriam Sharp, who we were talking about earlier, how she had also lost her son in Sokovia. So again, this is the Avengers' collateral damage, the personification of failure of collateral damage coming back to bite them. And I thought it was a really interesting job by Daniel Brühl, just a really interesting character.
So yeah, after everything is resolved there, we see Tony going back to the compound, and we see Vision just sitting there. He still feels really bad for shooting down Rhodey. And you see him just thinking about stuff. So then Cap goes and visits Rhodey, and he's doing, his exercises to get his legs working again.
Yeah.
And you feel really bad for Rhodey because, he obviously wants to be a part of the team, but it looks like he's got some sort of paralysis and issues walking. So it was a cool moment to see old friends Tony and Rhodey, talking to each other. And Rhodey's like, yeah, this sucks, but I believe in the Accords, and this hasn't changed my mind at all. So
how about the FedEx delivery guy for Tony Stank?
I'm never letting you live this one down, right? I'm never letting this one go.
Table for Tony Stank.
No, I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, I love this cameo.
Yeah, one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos for sure.
It got to the very end of the movie with that one, and I honestly wasn't thinking about it. But then I saw him like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, no, it's funny you said that. Like when we were within 10-15 minutes left of the film, and there was no Stan Lee cameo, I was actually thinking, like, is Stan Lee gonna pop? I know he's got to pop in. In general, I thought it was a very funny cameo. And I thought that
this one actually had to do with the plot. He delivers a FedEx that actually has a letter from Captain America to Tony.
And I really like that moment when Tony's reading the letter and Cap says to him, "Look, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you about your parents. I was trying to spare you pain, but now I understand I was just sparing myself pain." But again, you understand Cap's side, and also I love what he said to Tony in there. He's like, "I know you're just doing what you think is right. That's all any of us can ever do." And he leaves him a cell phone, and because obviously he's broke. Now he's got the richest man of all time, King T'Challa, backing him up with with his new secret organization of Avengers, the new Secret Avengers. So now we got him backing him up, and by the way, he's like 10 times richer than Tony. So that's a good man to have in your corner. So I thought it was just a really good job in that letter saying, "Look, I'm sorry for everything that happened, and I understand why you did what you did, and I'm sorry for what I did. I'm here for you if you ever need me. I still have that respect, and I will fight in battle, and I will die for you if you ever need me." And I love that little tie back. Say, "Look, sorry about everything that happened. I'm still here for you."
Then it goes into the first credit scene where we're back in Wakanda, and you see Cap talking to Winter Soldier, and he's like, "Are you sure about this?" And he says, "Yeah, I can't control my own brain. Just I guess until they can get this out of my head, I think it's best for everybody."
And that really makes me like love Bucky even more. Like he's making a sacrifice. I can't control myself right now. No, I'm gonna freeze myself until we can figure this out. He's a good man. If he was a piece of crap, he would just say, "Nah, I don't care. I'm just gonna be selfish and live my life." He's a good man, and I love that sacrifice he's making there at the end. And I'm assuming that they will make a fix for him because he deserves it. He's been through a lot.
And I gotta say too, I really like Bucky in this movie, and I'm glad they had him at like kind of the forefront of this movie because this is a Captain America movie, and Bucky was obviously big in Captain America: Winter Soldier. So I'm glad that they had him.
First Avenger.
Yeah, you're right. Bucky was in the first Avengers too, of course, and I really liked that he was in this movie, and I thought he did a really good job. I love his character.
But too, not only that, I love the relationship between him and Steve. Like from where they started off in that alley, him protecting Steve and stopping him from the bully, to Steve doing the same thing. Now Iron Man has become the bully and he's gonna kill him, and now he's got to stop him. I thought it was a really cool turn of events, and I love how much their relationship has expanded in the 70 years since we were in that alley with skinny small Steve and the soldier of Bucky. So I really love where the relationship has come. And just to see that close with King T'Challa talking to Steve about, they'll come for us. Let them. Let them come or let them try?
Let them try.
Let them try. Such a badass line. Then we get that shot of the black. Was it the Black Panther? Right. Of the vibranium. That really cool shot of the statue in Wakanda. Such an iconic shot. Then we get the post credit scene, which shows Spider-Man. I love the dialogue between him and Aunt May. She's like, "What happened to you?" "Oh, I was fighting this big."
Who hit you? Some guy named Steve. What, the guy
from
with the
Brooklyn,
underbite?
from
No,
Brooklyn.
some dude from Brooklyn.
And then also she was talking about, I was fighting this big man.
Yeah, his friend was huge.
So
that was so
and then
funny.
also, if you notice, he's got this little
hologram that Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, that's obviously Tony Stark gave him that technology, but that is clearly an Easter egg and a callback to the 60s animated TV show where he would do the same thing out of his web shooter. He would have that same light up technology. So really cool nod and Easter egg. And again, I just really thought they nailed the character of Spider-Man. Not only did he have the Queen's accent, not only was he a kid, it felt so organic. It felt like Spider-Man. All his dialogue. "Hey man, you got a metal arm? That's cool." The Empire Strikes Back. It felt like Spider-Man. It was so organic, and so again, this is my favorite take on Spider-Man so far.
And then it says, the screen goes black and it says Spider-Man will return. Yep. So I thought it was a great way to end the movie, setting up and the new Spider-Man movie that's going to be coming out.
All right, so we mentioned a bunch of Easter eggs in this review. Just a couple that we didn't that we forgot to mention. One of them was when Bucky is being held. I believe it says Gate D, and on the right side it says 23. There's a Disney event called D23 that's clearly an Easter egg and a nod to that. So I noticed that right away. That was pretty funny. Also, too, one of the characters, one of Crossbones' henchmen, he's got that vial, and he says to Natasha, "Drop it, or I'll drop this." That's Damien Poitier. I hope I didn't mess up his name. Sorry, Damien, if I did. That's Damien Poitier, and he actually played, before they cast Josh Brolin in Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers Age of Ultron as Thanos, Damien Poitier was actually Thanos in the first Avengers film at the end, where he says, "To challenge them is to challenge death." Or to court death, rather. That's when you see Thanos give that smile and grin. That's Damien Poitier. So, and I've seen him on a bunch of podcasts and YouTube stuff. So I recognized him right away. I was like, "Oh, there's Thanos," or the first Thanos before Josh Brolin. So I thought that was a nice little cool Easter egg as well.
Man, overall, this was one hell of a movie. I had so much fun watching it and rewatching it. And just when you analyze it too, you just see so many things, how much time and preparation Marvel has made to make everything align and make everything, they've really cut through all the details and made sure everything is perfect.
No, definitely. I completely agree, for sure. And again, I'm so emotionally invested in these. And again, I know these are comic book movies, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like real world situations happening with our favorite characters who just happen to be superheroes. So that's why I love these films so much.
And although this movie has unbelievable action, maybe some of the best you've ever seen, it's not a movie that relies solely on the action. It has so many great characters. It's a very character-driven movie. You see how the relationships pan out and how they don't really want to fight each other, but they have to. So, very well done. I couldn't see this movie being any better than it was.
I agree. Again, I've seen this film twice. I'm not changing my score. This film is phenomenally directed. It's very well written. The characters, again, are very well written. They're very thought out. There's a lot of great, as you said, character building moments, expanding of the characters from all of the previous 12 films. The action is beyond sensational. The plot is very good in this film. I'm sticking with my score of 10.
I'm not changing either. I'm keeping mine at 10. Anthony and Joe Russo, job well done. These characters are in good hands with you guys. And amazing action, really great character-driven story, great dialogue. I love the dialogue that we actually see in between all the fighting. I thought that was something they did really well. And the pacing of this movie was really good too. They're jumping around from place to place to place to place, but it feels natural. It feels fluid. It doesn't feel like, wait, where am I? You know what I mean? They do a really good job of just keeping the whole thing fluid. I could not imagine a better movie at this point, so I'm keeping my score of 10. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this video. Let us know what you think about this movie in the comments section. We are going to be doing a scene-by-scene breakdown, so definitely be on the lookout for that, and hit that subscribe button.
See you guys next time.